So one thing that you want to consider when you're making your cake is that we are going to be taking the cake all the way out of the pan. So we will don't do that. So whatever pan you're going to use, I'm just going to use a small one for our cake today because we want to not have to put too many decorations on it or it'll take forever. So I'm going to Crisco this pan and then I'm going to flour it. So all you need to do is take a paper towel and you just kind of just rub it in there on the bottom of your pan, and then you also want to get your sides of your pan as well. So I'm just going to go up the sides here like so, and then you just grab a little handful of flour right here. Very well. Just a little handful of flour, drop it in the middle of your pan, maybe a little bit more. And then you're just going to tap it around like this to make sure that your pan, the bottom of your pan is covered as well as the sides of your pan. And then if you get a clump like I kind of have there, you can keep tapping it. This will make sure that your cake comes out of the pan really nicely when we're ready to remove it so that we can frost it and decorate it. And then if you have extra flour and you're using a small pan like me and you're gonna make a tiny extra cake just for eating, you can just dump that flour in that extra cake and you're ready to go. Okay, so while your cake is baking, I would recommend going ahead and making your fondant and your buttercream frosting. So I have put 4 cups of powdered sugar following the recipe in this bowl. In this bowl, I've got my mini marshmallows that I'm going to go dash some water on and microwave for 30 seconds at a time. And so I'll be right back, and then we will go through this fun kneading journey together. I'm going to take off any watches that might get all gross and crappy. Okay, ready to go. So one thing I would recommend is to get grease on your hands for some of this process so that it doesn't stick to as much. But following the instructions we posted from somebody else who's probably a better baker than me, I'm just gonna dump a whole heap of this in, most of it anyway. And we're gonna try to mix it in the bowl. And then once we kind of get it to be a solid entity, kind of like a ball, we're gonna dump it back out onto the table. Okay, so mine's almost at a point where I can flip it out onto the table. So one thing you should definitely do, make sure your table is clean, but we're doing that. So then you're just gonna sprinkle some powdered sugar out on your work surface so that it doesn't stick to the table. And then we're just gonna knead it until it's feeling like kind of a Play-Doh-y sort of consistency, something that we can work with. So then dump it out. You want to try to get as much out of the bowl as you can because this is what we're going to use to be decorating your cake. So. Counterproductive. Mine might not have been quite solid enough to flip out of the bowl, but my arm was we'll work that later. And this is a good idea to put your oil back on your hands if you haven't already. It's gross, but Trust me, I don't want it. Okay. And then you're going to try to like back up and kind of, you can see it very well. Roll it around a little, and then hopefully it'll get kind of some of that powdered sugar we put down. Mine wasn't quite ready, so I'm going to be putting a lot of powdered sugar down. And if it starts to stick to the table, just kind of trying to scrape it up as much as possible, putting it back in the pile. Once you've gotten it to a consistency where when you roll it, it doesn't like stick to your hand. It might stick a little bit, but it's not like coming off like you saw earlier in strings or anything. That is a good time to go ahead, and we're gonna save this for a while, put it in a Ziploc bag. Fondant dries out really, really easily, so you wanna always make sure that it is in an airtight container or in a sealed spot when you're not directly working with it. So I'm gonna go get a Ziploc, and then we're gonna make our buttercream, and then we're gonna frost our cake, and then we're gonna learn how to fondant the cake. So I'll go put this in the Ziploc. Okay, so I'm cheating. I'm using my KitchenAid for our buttercream. It's not cheating, it's totally legit. I use it on cooking shows all the time. The key about buttercream is to make sure that your butter has softened. I left this out all night actually, so that it is nice and soft, because you're trying to cream it, and it's really hard to cream something that is cold butter. So our cake is cooled a little bit. It's not totally cool yet. We're gonna flip it all onto a sheet so that we can let it cool a little bit faster. And so the one thing I do is I kind of go through with a butter knife on the edges of my cake and just make sure it's not attached. And then I also kind of touch it a little bit just to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom there. This is where we floured the pan, but yeah, it just doesn't go perfect. And then these pop out like that. So now that our cake is cool, which shouldn't take that long now that we've got it out of the pan, we are going to go ahead and frost it. I have it on a turntable, which I realize most people don't have, but you're just going to load up a butter knife or a metal spatula like me, and you're just going to go ahead and frost it. And then this is a crumb coat, so if crumbs get in it, that is okay. We're just trying to get a base of frosting on here. And you've probably seen professionals do this. I am not a professional, so just keep that in mind. And then depending on how soft your frosting is, this can sometimes be a good idea to mix it up at the time. Just real quick, if you've already mixed it in the mixer and it's been sitting for a little bit. And then we'll get our size. Okay, once you've kind of got a base on there, you can go back through and really smooth it down and make sure everything has been covered. And I do that by putting a decent amount on my spatula and then just kind of putting it back on, scraping it off. And then if you have a hole, like I kind of have a hole right here, you can see it very well. See, there's a hole there. You can try to like stop it up with some extra frosting and just shove it in that hole so that the fondant doesn't do anything super weird. We're making a nice shortcake, which is going to be helpful for our fondant because the taller the fondant is, the more wrinkly it can get. So I'm going to put this in the fridge so that the frosting will harden a little bit, and then when we're ready to fondant it, we'll kind of dab it down with our fingers if there's any like spikes or peaks or something, and then we'll wipe all this frosting off around, and so that's crumb coat. We're waiting for our cake to kind of let the frosting harden a little bit, so we're going to take this opportunity to do a couple different things. So the first thing we're going to do, because it's easy and it's already in front of us, is we're going to make some blue buttercream for our river. And this is going to go in a piping bag, aka a Ziploc if you don't have a piping bag, and get piped onto the cake later on. And mine has a little bit of those chocolate crumbs from my crumb coat on it. It's fine. You're gonna take your blue food coloring. You might have it in a droplet. I have gel food coloring. So however you have it, you're just gonna grab some of it. And then what we're gonna do on this is we're just not gonna mix it very well. And that's okay, because we want it to kind of look like water. So I don't know how much you're gonna need. I use quite a bit of this stuff because we want it to be pretty blue. If you have a piping bag, you just kind of cut off the top of it. And you want to put this piece in the bag. And then you want to make sure that the plastic doesn't go past this little bit. There we go. And then you can choose a tip. I'm going to use this tip for our water, and I'll show you guys what it looks like in just a Ziploc as well. And then you just screw your tip on. I always use a glass when I'm filling a bag or a Ziploc. Just makes it a little bit easier. And then you just scoop this in. That way you have something to scrape your knife edge on. We'll leave that so I can throw it with a Ziploc. And then you always twist the edge of the bag so that is ready for some water. If you're going to use a Ziploc, it's the same idea. You're just going to stuff one section of it into the cup, and you're going to put your frosting in. Same thing. Oops. Now on the table. It's fine. Everything's fine. Same thing as before, except you won't be able to push this in. So you're just gonna make a really small cut here. You can always make it bigger, but you can't make it smaller. So always err on the side of smaller. And then I always recommend using at least a quart size Ziploc, if not a gallon size, because the sandwich bags do not have strong enough seams for you to push on, and they will collapse mid frosting. Okay. You'll notice my fondant was a little bit difficult to get out of the bag, and so you can put a little extra oil on the edges of it when you put it in your Ziploc bag to kind of prevent that. And then I just washed my hands, so it's going to be a little bit sticky at first because now my hands are wet. I still have my powdered sugar here, so we're just going to kind of knead this back out again until it stops being super, super sticky. We're going to take a chunk of this off. We are making a bridge, so we need quite a bit for our bridge. So, and I always err a little bit on the side of maybe just a little bit more. So we're going to take out this much for our bridge, which is about a Cory handful. Pop that back in our bag, and I'm going to oil it a little bit on the outside just to make sure it doesn't get too stuck to that bag. And then we are going to need a little bit of red for our fire. So again, just air it on the side of a little bit more. So that'll be our red. And then maybe just a little bit more in case we think of something cool. Because I would make this cake. So we'll put that in the bag, reseal it. And now this is going to be our green and our dark green. We're going to start with light green. And so just like before, you're gonna, with the buttercream, we're just gonna put our food coloring in this. If you're using droplets of food coloring, just note that sometimes makes it a little bit sticky. So if you need to have more powdered sugar on hand to add in to kind of unstickiness, that might be a good idea. But I'm going to make this green. You may also want to use gloves because it does have a tendency, since you're kneading it, to stain your hands a little bit. I made a red cake once and my hands were red for days. So we've got a green color here. I don't know if you can tell that it's green, but it is. It's pretty light green, but that's okay. If you want to make it darker, you're totally okay making it a little bit darker. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this area because we're going to roll it out. We want it nice and smooth. I'm going to put a little bit of powdered sugar down, but this is kind of still a little chunky from our original mixing. So I'm gonna put this back in the bag for just a second so it doesn't dry out too much, and clean up my space, and then we're gonna roll it out, pull the cake out of the fridge. I'm gonna put the cake on a cake pan because I realize I'm giving this to somebody and people don't always return your pan. So if you do have a piece of cardboard, you can put it on. Sometimes if I don't have a nice cake pan like this, I'll just put aluminum foil down to make it look shiny, and then you can put your cake on that. So in here, I'll get the cake, clean off my space. So I've cleaned up my space and I put a nice thin layer of powdered sugar down, and then I'm also going to powder sugar my rolling pin, and then just kind of make sure that that's nice and spread out. So grabbing my greenish, very pastel green, out of my fondant bag. So I'll just reknead this a little bit so that it's soft so that we can roll it out. And I like to just kind of make it into a bit of a ball like so. We're going to go a little bit more powdered sugar. Rolled out super thin. We're gonna do our best to kind of roll it over this rolling pin. That is, if we haven't gotten it stuck to the table again. You'll notice I had to do that a couple different times, and it did stick a lot, and it still is sticking. So you're just gonna do your best with it, and you want it to be really pretty thin here. I'm just gonna take it and drape it over. Definitely my setup. So what you should have is like this. It's been draped over your cake. And then this is where you are just gonna smooth it down with your hands. You wanna pull the fondant away from the cake. And any spots that you're like, oh, that's ugly, that's where you're gonna put one of our decorations. The total cake decorator. Trick. So then once you have the top all smoothed down, you can start working on this edge here. You're just gonna go around the cake on that edge. And then since this is a square cake I'm making, it's a little bit trickier, but you definitely just wanna make sure that the fondant is pulled away from the edge so that you can go through and kind of push it down a little bit on each side. This corner right here, you can kind of see that's the like buckling we were trying to avoid. So we're gonna put a really nice decoration there, and I'm gonna try to trim the cake so you can't see it as well. Okay, so I'm just working on making our green a little bit darker because we're gonna make a trefoil and a tent out of this. What we're gonna do is we are going to we're making it a little A-frame tent. So we're going to just need a rectangle. And so now's a good time to kind of figure out where you want your creek to go. And so I'm definitely gonna start mine down here, and I'm just gonna outline it. And for me, I need to remember it's gotta have a bridge across it. So we're gonna do something like this. And then if you are a person who is using a Ziploc bag, same idea. That's right here. You're just kind of twisting the end of the bag, and then you can pipe in and try to make it look a little wavy, a little ripply. So I made it spill off over here as a waterfall. And okay, so this fondant is not drying out. What we're going to do is we are going to use a roast biscuit sheet, which you can buy at the store, or you can make your own. And it's going to kind of squish around, make a little bridge, and then you can wrap it in fondant and make it kind of like that. So that's going to be the structure since the fondant isn't drying. For the tent, you guys also can use toothpicks to help hold things up so that it looks a little better. Just warn people if they're going to try to eat anything has a toothpick in it to be careful. Okay. You guys can talk now. Go ahead. You guys can talk now.
I mean, you don't have to. Just saying you can. What do I have? Okay. Sounds good. This stuff sucks. I hate it. I'm serious. We need a box for my car. No, we need a box on the top of the car. Damn it. Ugh. This is just not working. No, I can't get them. Not really, honestly. I mean, it kind of worked. It just looks stupid because the fondant wouldn't cover the bridge. It's fine. It's just ugly. No, that's not the problem. The problem is the bridge. The bridge is ugly. But it is what it is at this point. I feel like the tent needs something inside. But, oh well. It's gotta be done. We should only make cakes out of brown fondant. Because it's just so kind to everyone. It smells good. What time am I supposed to come over, Mom, tomorrow? I know, that's what I'm asking you. What time should I be there tomorrow to set up the car? Okay, you haven't answered the question. What time would that be? Okay. I have it. No. You may come in and borrow it. You're welcome.
I like the texture on your bridge.
It's like crap. I don't know how long that bridge is going to stand. I put toothpicks under it, but yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.